All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's Matt White with Other Side of the Selfie. Hope everybody's having an awesome Sunday, and I'm excited for tonight. This is our fourth episode, so thanks for those of you who have joined us for all four episodes. This is a full month in. Tonight, I'm joined by Tim Pass, and excited to hear his story. He's got some great stuff to talk about, and we're going to jump in. Just want to remind everybody what the show is all about. It is 100% about husbands slash boyfriends slash significant other, whatever you want to call yourself, even girlfriends, whatever, of folks that are in direct marketing, direct sales, network marketing, whatever you want to call it. We're here to help and offer support. The goal is to talk through what I call the joys and the challenges and the lessons learned about being involved, either married to or connected with somebody in the network marketing world. So although our first few folks that we've had on the show here have been connected to Unique, which is what my wife does and what Tim's wife does as well, I will be planning to bring on some folks that are not specifically involved in just Unique, because what we talk about here is not just about Unique. It applies to anybody in the direct marketing, network marketing, direct sales type of a world. So excited to come to you tonight. And I will say a little hello and cheers for, this is my little Unique cup, but I am drinking tonight Blue Moon Mango Wheat. I'm not a crazy beer drinker, but I mean, as far as like trying all kinds of crazy stuff. But for whatever reason, I like regular Blue Moon, but the Blue Moon, this mango thing, I got it in like one of those variety packs, and I'm going to give it a 2 thumbs up. Cool. So I'm going to introduce Tim. Tim, his wife Carly, has been involved in Unique for how many years, Tim?
3 years and 8 months. We had to
3 years and 8 months. Cool. Yeah. So I'm going to let Tim jump in and kind of introduce himself. Where are you from? Who's your wife? What's your connection? How long you guys been married? Do you have kids? Where do you live?
Oh, man.
Just give us a little bit of a quick little background on who you guys are. Jump in. Go ahead.
All right. I'm Tim Pass. I recently got out of the Navy after 10 and a half years. I'm from Edgewater, Maryland, right near Annapolis, Maryland. My wife, Carly, grew up in Kent Island, which is not far from Annapolis. We are high school sweethearts. We've been married for 10 years in December. That was our 10-year anniversary. We went
Congrats.
to Thank you. Went to Vegas instead of Santorini, Greece, which I had promised her, but not living in Europe makes it more difficult to just catch a plane out to Greece. But so let's see. With my wife, what I want to say is that after high school, is when you're supposed to like figure out what it is you want to do. And she knew what she wanted to do. And it was very simple. She wanted to work at a doctor's office as a secretary and maybe have like a side job. And that's completely fine. There's a lot of women that do that. She wanted to be a mother, she wanted to be a wife. That was it. And, I joined the Navy, and then we got married, and then we had our first son, our first child, and went down to Virginia Beach, and we stayed there for 7 years. And then it came time to pick orders, and so it was like, where do you want to go? And she was like, let's go overseas. Let's do romantic stuff. Specifically, she wanted to put locks on bridges. Like, because that is like the pinnacle of love, right? And I learned it, right? We did that. So we were supposed to go to Italy, I think, was where we were supposed to get stationed. Sequestration happened. And then they said, you can go to, I had a really good selection. It was England, Germany, Italy, but I have to deploy, and then like Hawaii and Florida. I mean, those are all ideal locations.
Not bad, yeah.
But we wanted that overseas experience specifically for us, but more so for our kids because, like they need to be cultured. Maryland's great, but, overseas is completely different. So we picked England. We moved there. We lived there for 3 years. And that's when her upline, asked her about Unique. And so I think this leads into the next question you're going to hit on. So do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just so tell. I can't remember if you told me this in our pre-call or if you just said this live, but you guys were high school sweethearts. So you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been together for how long? So you said 10 years. You've been married, or just over 10 years married?
I met her in March of 2003 in Spanish class,
Awesome.
And she would talk to me, and it was really weird. And one day she touched my leg, not like sexual, but it was just, and I was like kind of thrown off because I couldn't figure out why this girl was touching me. It wasn't bad. It was just, it was different. We were in the middle of conversation, casual touching. And,
Right.
end of the school year rolled around, and I was like, I didn't have the courage to ask for a phone number. So, because of the age of technology, I knew she was on Instant Messenger. So I'm like, hey, what's your AOL or Instant Messenger chat name, whatever. And
That's awesome.
and I told her, I was like, I really want to keep talking to you because I really enjoyed talking with her. And I think it was actually because she was so introverted. She wasn't like, it took me a while to get her to open up to me. And I think that was what really connected me to her, was that
So was that like your senior year? Like as
I,
you're finishing?
no, it was my 11th grade year
Okay.
when I met her. We started dating that summer. Went and
Okay.
saw Dumb and Dumber for our first date in my 5 Trans Am with the T tops off, and we went and got Slurpees afterward.
Outstanding.
Yeah, romance.
That's a great story. Yeah, man. Good stuff.
So
Cool. So yeah, so you said you kind of she was approached by who's now her upline.
yeah,
What did that look like? How did that happen? What
yeah,
was your initial opinion or thought? One way or the other, positive, negative, neutral.
yeah.
Kind of how that story happened.
Okay, so at the time I knew nothing about makeup, and her friend reached out to her, who she knew from this military spouse forum from years when I first joined the military. And she's like, hey, there's this mascara, you have to try it. And she's like, let me talk to my husband. Well, little did I know, she already had bought it, right? Because that's what women do. They want something, they go get it. And so she had the mascara, and her friend's like, okay, how do you like it? She's like, I love it. She's like, great, you're going to have a party. She's like, well, what's that? So she set up an online party for her. And my wife came to me after the first night, and she says, my party qualified. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And she's like, I've sold $200, so I get like free makeup. And I'm like, oh, cool. And she's like, my friend says that my friends really need this stuff because of how fast they're buying it from me. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And she's like, well, it only costs $99 to join. And I'm like, by the way, like, she was a personal trainer at the time, and because it was a small base, she might have made $400 a month, and she would drive to base twice a day to meet with clients. So we're talking about half an hour each way. So 2 hours in the car for $400 a month,
Wow.
4 or 5 days a week. Not cost effective, but she joined, and so we talked about what was my expectation. I said, I just want you to get some free makeup. The presenter's kit alone was like, because I like deals. She told me what was in it and told me the price. And I'm like, so like it's $300 something worth of makeup for $99. Yeah, good. Sounds a good deal to me. But again, I knew nothing about that stuff. So um, the other thing I was going to say is we had a friend that did another network marketing company, and it was in the health and wellness industry, weight loss, I guess.
Okay.
And so they would have my wife come over, and they would have her demo one of the products. And long story short, our friend was giving her money back. She had a lot of military friends she sold to, and they would buy the kits and use it, and then they'd go back to her and say, hey, it's not working for me, and she'd give her the money back. And so that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, well, this thing must be a scam. And so that's why I was so hesitant with my wife. I was like, all right, just get free makeup. She told me there was no like fees or anything. And I was like, well, that's good. So she joined like the last week of June of whatever year it was. And her first week, she made $100. And like, I know like can't do like full income claims, but first week, $100, first whole month, $500. And it kept going from there. And so we sat down and we did some math, and I was so blown away when she made, maybe it might have been like $1,500. I was like shocked, because like that was a big chunk of change when I was,
And this was back when it was just mascara for the most part. I mean, you're selling one thing for $29 or whatever, right?
Yeah, they didn't have like a huge line,
Right.
but it was I sat down and I broke down the math. I wrote down, okay, when we lived in Virginia Beach, she was a manager at a massage place, which she killed it, by the way. She developed a training program. The corporate training people came out and evaluated the company, and they were just blown away, because she had no like fundamental like training or leadership training, no like foundation on why this girl should be able to put together a program like this. What it did is it allowed her and the other front desk girls to hit their goals, And then when they hit their goals, the management hit their goals. And so everybody was rewarded with compensation.
Hmm.
And then it's just funny because now that's exactly what she does with Unique. So the other thing that I was going to say, man, that part blew me away. I was a training guy for when I was in the Navy. And so I was doing training plans. And when I sat back and learned what she was doing, I was like, you're doing exactly what I'm doing, but you're moving up the ranks. She was employee of the month. She was employee of the quarter, manager of the year. Like, she just kept going. And had we not left and went to England, they told her they were going to let her open up a location as head manager, even though she had no college background, which that was their requirement. So,
Huh.
so she started doing Unique. She left her personal training job a year later, and like I was all in. I was like, this is legit. Um, and sorry, just make sure I didn't skip anything.
Yeah, no, that's good. So it was. You said it just took a couple months for her to jump in. I mean, it happened pretty quickly where she was seeing success. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't like she month one joined and recruited hundreds of people. It was there might have been like her mom was her first person to join, and her mom hit elite status, pretty quick.
Mhm.
But they were sharing this makeup that they loved with their friends, and their friends started to love it, and it just kind of had a spark, kept trickling down. Um,
And let me ask you too, kind of related to that. So let's pretend that hadn't been the case, because what you said initially was, I was cool with just getting free makeup, right? So saw the deal and that kind of thing. So do you think things would have been different, or you would have looked at it differently had maybe it taken a longer time for her to get to that, or do you feel like free makeup was cool and it was all good, and the fact that she was making money was just icing, or do you think like if she wasn't making money, you would have questioned it a little bit more maybe?
hmm. I didn't fully understand what the business was. Like, I looked at it as okay. I wasn't looking at it as like it was a bad thing. It wasn't a scam online. I saw the potential that you could make some money. I didn't know what kind of money you could really make with it, and so if she wouldn't have gotten where she was at, and I mean, it took her a while to get to a really good point, but I think I probably wouldn't have been so supportive if she wouldn't have been producing because and as I've learned, she didn't treat it as a hobbyist, right? I think Eric Worre does a GoPro program. You got your hobbyists, your amateurs, and then your people that go pro.
Mm,
And her first 3 months in, she's doing a 100 nose challenge, and I'm like, what is that? And she's like, well, I'm gonna reach out to as many people as I can until 100 of them tell me no. And I was like, why would you do that? She's like, because I'm gonna get 100 no's and I'm gonna get a lot of yeses, and I wouldn't get any of that if I didn't talk to anybody.
nice.
And and again, let me caveat the thing that just blows me away every day. My wife is introverted,
Hmm.
and I say this, and I'm not talking down on it, because from everything I've read and research, and I went to an interrogation school once. Introverts can learn the process and commit to it, so they're very objective, and they're able to get things done. Whereas some extroverts, they don't focus on the process as much, and then they lose and miss out on certain things. So I don't know
That's
if
a very good point. Yeah, and that's because it's funny because I say that sometimes too, and tell me if you hear the same thing. So my wife is so outgoing on Facebook, in particular on social media, that when people see her out of offline, see her in real life, um, and they find out that she is an introvert, and she would claim that she doesn't like people, then people are like, no way, not Anne. That's just not even her, and all that kind of stuff. But I never thought about that. I mean, the way that you just put it is interesting because they do focus on the details a lot more, maybe than somebody who's just all about the connecting and the relationships and all that kind of stuff. Where
yeah,
somebody who's really in the details. So maybe that's Anne, if you're watching, maybe that's what makes you so awesome.
yeah,
One of the many things, of course.
yeah. So the thing is, I mean, okay, we've been together for a long time, and so maybe I'm jumping ahead, but she's grown so much, like as a woman, and that part of it. I mean, I've talked to some people about this, but when you take, because we've known each other for so long, when you take somebody who's, I don't know, 15 years old and you're first meeting them and they're very, quiet and you have to like really get them to open up, to somebody now like she has confidence. And for me it's different because it's like I view myself, I'm the same person I've always been. I'm not so negative as I used to be, but it's whereas I still view her, I try, like I see her as like how she's grown so much. Like she's confident. Like when she first started doing her lives and stuff, she was so nervous, and now she does them, and I watch them, I'm like, wow, like that's my wife.
That's cool. Yeah.
So
And I think that's a neat, interesting point too. I think that whole idea is that some of these people, again, no matter what business you're in, because a lot of them do live videos or whatever to promote their business, is they don't just, for the most part, some people may be comfortable right away, but for the most part, they're not, right? I mean, they jump in and this is a new thing for them, and it's nervous, and they're, I would venture to say that 99% of the folks that started would say, oh my gosh, if you look back at my first live video,
like,
no way, right? Bad lighting, I said a lot, I did all this, I did that, all this kind of stuff. So I think to those who are watching who are new to all this stuff is to not expect that right out of the gate you're just going to be the most awesome presenter, from physically presenter in on Facebook, on live things, on video, even for those that do in-home type presentations and things like that. I think that's something that you work on. It's not a natural. Most people are not a natural at that kind of stuff. And I think, like I said, at least for Ann, and it sounds like maybe for Carly too, the online piece makes it an easy intro. Like that's like a good first step, and kind of because she is that introvert, it allows her to reach out and kind of be an extrovert, but behind the screen, and then come across, and it's okay to reach out through Messenger or through Facebook, or to kind of be behind the camera, on the selfie kind of side of things, without feeling like you're pushed into a social setting where you'd be a little bit more nervous. And she would hate to get up in front, like I do some public speaking, and she would hate to get up in front of a whole big group and talk about stuff, right? But she can sit in here and have hundreds of people watch her online, and she's completely comfortable and all that. But again, 4 years ago, that would not be the case, and I think she would agree for sure. So so the question that I was going to have, and it sounds like you kind of answered it a little bit, is kind of what have you seen outside of the confidence? Is there anything else that you've kind of recognized that has has changed since you guys have been involved in this?
Okay, so she's very process oriented. She makes checklists. She's always taking notes or making notes to herself, like things she needs to do so that she hits all of her goals. And that was something that growing up that my mom always told me, like, oh, you need to make a list. You need to make a list, and as a result, I wouldn't make a list and there would be things that I'd miss. But by her making her list, she's able to get her work stuff done. Usually she gets most of it done while the kids are at school. And then the kids come home from school, she's able to help them with their homework. I get home. We started going to the gym over the last month after work, and still come home and, be able to have dinner, 6:30, maybe 7 o'clock at night. So it's, I guess the balance piece is there. Whereas I think about if she was doing that, like typical, like 9 to 5, other job, you know what I mean? Like not being able to do all those things.
So tell me, you mentioned you had your first kid. How many children do you have, and what are their ages?
So my son's 9 and my daughter's 7.
Okay. And then, so what do you feel like some of the challenges, and you bring in kids obviously is one piece of that, but like maybe it's not, but typically it can be, is balancing the family, right? The time spent, the time with the kids, the time with you. And then on the flip side, the benefits, obviously there's some connection to that as well. And network marketing is the freedom and flexibility, I would assume.
Oh man, definitely.
As a parent. So tell me a little bit about how that's looked, maybe pre and post being involved with network marketing.
Oh man, okay. Pre network marketing. As I was in the Navy, and there was a time that I'd get off every day, but we didn't know. It could be 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Whenever they decided to let us go, whether or not we had work to do. Some days we just sat around waiting to be told go home. So with the massage job, when she was the manager, she didn't. I mean, she got to pick her schedule, sorta, but they always had to have a manager there. And so there was a lot of nights that she wasn't home. And so it's kind of like when I say nights, like she'd come home after the kids were in bed. So I get off work after being gone all day. I have to, get everything situated, get them in bed. And then she'd come home and, we get to maybe watch TV for half an hour, and then go to bed and do it all again the next day. And going back to the what I was talking about earlier with the income, when I sat down and I wrote everything out with her having that job, about like what she paid for daycare, the gas, like all those crazy expenses, we looked at it, and all she had to do was make, I want to say it was like $400 a paycheck at home, from home, and she wouldn't have to do that, because when you deducted all the other stuff,
right, the balance was there.
Oh my, and that blew me away, because it showed me that anything like this, whatever it is, whatever network marketing business you're in, like if you can produce that, that's the difference. Like that was the why she was gone all the time. And so by her now doing this, she had all the freedom where she's now home.
Was that something for her that she, when she got into this, it sounds like maybe that wasn't the first thing on her mind, but then maybe once she got into it, did that pop in pretty quickly, that kind of she realized the freedom that she could have
within that first year, she quit personal training, and because she saw it as time consuming. And it's like she was going in at night for those second session clients. She would go in when they get home. I'd get home from work. She'd go in. And so when she was able to quit, because she, made more than she was making with the personal training, people couldn't believe that. But I mean, that's, I think you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The balance thing is something that her and I have different views on. My thing is, as long as the kids, as long as the kids' needs are being met with attention, I'm kind of, I don't need her to give me that kind of attention, and I'll tell you why. I mean, of course, I love attention from my wife, but I have some form of addiction problem, and when I say this, seeing my wife succeed is addicting, and there's so many words that I could use to describe it. I mean, like, successful women are attractive,
sure,
the confidence awesome. They have, that swagger. And so if we can't watch our TV show, like we watch Grey's Anatomy every Thursday night, if we can't watch it because she has to do a team training or she has to do a live or whatever, that's okay, because like I like seeing her succeed. I want her to continue to succeed and reach higher levels. And with that, going back to with what she wanted to be when she grew up, we had a long talk about this, and I said, with where you're at now, why would you continue to push harder? You've exceeded financially what you would have made in that line of work, by so many times at this point. So why would you continue to push? You know what I mean? Like if, okay, for example, in the government, right? I'm a government contractor. In the government, you can go online and look at the pay scale. I see what the top ranked guy makes. The top of the top of the top. It's like $155,000 a year, which, I mean, that's a good amount of money, but most people will kind of top out at like maybe 120-ish, maybe 110 towards the end of their career. Well, let's just say you hit that pinnacle, and you're, like you told me you got several businesses and you hit that. What drives you to keep going? And so when her and I had that talk, she said, well, I have this process, I have this thing that I keep doing, and I've realized that as long as I keep doing it, it's going to keep growing. Kind of the whole, if I do one thing once and it produces this outcome, what if I do it 50 times at once?
Keep doing it, yeah.
And it's not like, oh, well, that person's greedy. It's like, no, I have this process that works, and by continually doing it over and over again, multiple times at the same time, it's gonna, allow me to hit certain goals that I may have never actually had.
That's awesome. I love what you said about successful women are sexy. I think that's a great way to look at it. Is that it's not, and I would venture to say, not to say that my wife's never not been sexy, but I would say when they're stuck in something that they don't enjoy, and that they don't find passion and true, they find their why, which I totally believe that Anne has found her why through Unique, is, when they're not, they're just kind of there. They're just kind of going through. And the same, I would assume the same, as a wife looking to us or a girlfriend looking to a boyfriend or whatever. is that when you find that, or when you see your spouse find that, it just changes the game. And it's been, and I have a very similar story with Anne, that it's a, if you look back, and she even jokes, when those little pictures pop up from the, memories from Facebook, and she'll say, "Oh my God," she'll like tell, like put something out, and she'll be like, "Oh my gosh, why did you let me, look like this, or wear my hair like, all this stuff?" And she just like, I was just so blah, is what she would describe herself as. And I would disagree. I think she always has looked wonderful, and that, but at the same time, I do know there were times where she was not happy. She would, as far as work goes and all the travel, and she did, as you mentioned, I've got several businesses, but not all of them have been 100% successful. So it's been up and down a lot of times on the entrepreneurial side. So she has always been able to, or did for a really long time, was kind of the rock that held us, because she was, she was the one with the real job, if you will. But now it's really neat to see her to enjoy that passion of the entrepreneurial side. I think really in particular with what we do, or what they do at Unique, is helping inspire and encourage and have other women see that success as well, whether they're married or girlfriends or boyfriend, whatever or not, but just to be able to see them encouraged and inspired. And that's where I think with her to start, I think the free makeup thing, I don't even know if that was as huge of a deal as much as soon as she got in and she was able to recognize that she could help other people. That really is what I think has stuck it with her and allowed it to continue to build. Even if she didn't make a dime, she'd still, my guess is she would still be doing what she's doing, because she has that, that passion. She's found that why as to, what she's doing. Well, that's cool. What about on the upside? So, there's some challenges and the balances and things like that. Whether it's financially, you talked a little bit about freedom and things like that. I mean, what would you see as kind of the overarching upside to being involved in a network marketing type situation?
So for me personally, it's shown me that I don't have to, success is not a cookie cutter kind of thing. That watching her meeting these other women who are successful, they've showed me that you can be successful going different avenues. And it's allowed me to really expand my mindset. And that's, I mean, when the light bulb came on, like I was blown away. I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read this book I was telling you about, the Darren Hardy, Making the Shift, Your First 7 Days, Developing the Entrepreneur Mindset. And what I want to say about that, I think you asked about it earlier, but I didn't talk about it. About the balance with her and I. So there are times that, like, again, like she's not, I come home, how was your day? Like, usually it's just me talking nonstop, and then she's like, why didn't you ask about my day? And I'm like, oh, well, we've talked all day. Like, your day was, I don't know, okay. So specifically in our relationship, like, like there are things that I end up doing sometimes. Sometimes I have to clean, cook. I make post office runs for her. Not all the time, but I used to do it a lot more. I handle the taxes. And then also when we're talking about trainings and other things, we do a lot of brainstorming. So whereas I don't have a business background, but I've taken a lot of time over the last few years to do tons of research and try to find how I can take what I'm interested in to add value to her and her business. Now, usually I get yelled at and told, go find something else for you to do and go run it. Don't bother me and my business. But every now and then, like I read the 10X rule, and I started, quoting stuff about it on Facebook, and all of a sudden, within a few months, I'm seeing all these Unique girls, posting about it. And I'm like, haha.
That's right.
I don't claim to be the one that did it, but there was just so many things that I took from it, because, at the end of the day, they're in a sales-based industry. And, when you get down to the sales, I mean, it's very scientific.
Yeah. Tell me, and say it slowly so those that are watching can get it. The video or the book that you read, the Darren Hardy book, was called what?
It's called Making the Shift, Your First 7 Days, Developing the Entrepreneur Mindset.
Very good.
So
cool.
what that book did for me, to break it down, is it showed me that just because my wife maybe used to always make dinner at night, well, now from maybe 7 to 9, she's going to work her business. And just because she can't make dinner and maybe clean up because maybe that's how our relationship was, I'm gonna have to help out. It's a give and take. And it sounds like common sense, but what I've learned over the last several years is a lot of women that join these companies do it because they need that $400 a month or $700, whatever that small extra amount, because whether they're a stay-at-home parent or they're not, there's not enough money coming in. And I had a lot of male friends that was the case. And I had to tell a friend of mine about this, because when you talk finances, there's no emotion. It's black and white. This is what's coming in. This is what's going out. You can save as much as you want, but when I was at E3 in the Navy, and you can only cut back so much.
Right.
And so the answer is you have to find a way to produce more income. And so for me, seeing that if I allowed her to treat her job as a job, just like I treated the military as a job, well, then what ended up happening is she became more successful, even though basically I gave her that time.
And
So
I think you said too, and we talked earlier about that you say you actually call it a job, or you call it work, or instead of saying, well, how was your week today, or how was your day, or whatever, you actually make it you call it work so that it's recognized as being such.
oh, and you have to, because, and I'll tell you this: I've hosted two online parties for Unique. They didn't go as well as they could have because I didn't put makeup on like I could have. But that is challenging, right? Building those relationships, maybe the people you used to go to school with or whatever, but now you're reaching out to them. Hey, do you want to do a party for me and my wife? Like, because my wife challenged me to do so many parties, and I ended up doing two. And I think I sold one mascara, maybe two. It
Nice.
it was very challenging.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
so yeah, but
So, what would you say, looking as far as big picture goes? Anything that, and I think you may have addressed a little bit, but maybe to kind of bring back around as we kind of wrap up. But the biggest lesson, what
yes,
you would say, is kind of lesson learned
yeah.
throughout this whole deal. What do you think would be that thing, or that one or two things?
Okay, the biggest thing, and this I feel like you're gonna like this because my wife and I talked about this because I was drawing a blank. Okay, people's biggest problem in business is thinking they shouldn't have problems.
Very good.
Yeah, drop mic, done, right? And so, and here's why. Yeah, right. Boom. I think that because I'm sure you've experienced it through your wife's business, but a product goes on back order or whatever the case, there's always problems. And no matter what business it is, whether it's McDonald's running out of milkshake, whether it's, the mall running out of, whatever it is, you just have to keep moving forward. You shift direction and you find a different angle to go with it. And when we talked about that, it was like, you're absolutely right.
It's a great way
And
to look at it.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're in a people business. Sales is, we're providing a service or goods to people. We're adding value with that relationship, and relationships aren't always, you know, rainbows and sunshine, right? Like there are hiccups, right? Marriages, whether it's or your relationships with your brother, whoever. And so when she said that to me, I was like blown away. I was like, "You're right,
Yeah. And that's
absolutely."
true. I think that's a great point, and I think that's where it's not always perfect. And the idea of you talked about earlier, her going after 100 no's, or she was going to make 100 calls to get 100 no's or whatever. It's so much better to get a no than to be stretched along and whatever. But at the same time, you feel like, well, I'm getting so many no's, and you get frustrated. And then there's so many potential ways to bring you down. But it's all about attitude. I think it's all
Mm-hmm.
about the way that you look at it. But I love that idea. Is that one, I think, kind of connected to what you said, is you can't control what other people are going to do. I may
Nope.
have somebody as a client, whether it's on me on the web development kind of side,
Mm-hmm.
and tomorrow they may call me and say we decided to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? Same deal with makeup stuff and or any kind of other network marketing, selling bags, selling purses, selling jewelry, selling whatever you're selling. You may have a consistent somebody that comes in every single month and you're getting paid off of that and everything's great, or somebody that's working under you or over you that is, everything was great, and then one day that disappears and you have zero control over that, and you can't look at that as something you failed at or you did wrong. You just got to jump in and respond to it. And so I love that. That was very good. So I did want to loop back, which is kind of funny. I didn't even mention, but the way that Tim and I met was at this past October in Punta Cana at a swim up bar, believe it or not, which is awesome.
I love
but what's so cool, I think, about all of this, which we didn't really come up in our conversation here today, but just the relationships that are built, both between the women that are selling and doing their thing, but also the guys. Unique has this Husbands of Unique kind of group on Facebook, which is really cool. Bro. But then also just hanging out at the incentive trips, and I know some husbands go to convention and travel to some of the trainings and things like that. And so I think it's really neat to be able to connect with guys. So far, the folks that I've had on the show, I had myself on the first time, so that was local, obviously. But then you're from Maryland. I had a guy from Texas and a guy from Indiana. So all three of you guys I've met through incentive trips, and the next time we see you, will probably be the next incentive trip. But we'll see each other and we'll be like, hey, dude, it's like we just saw each other last week. So I think that's really neat to see that side of it as well, the relationship side.
For the trips, the one thing I didn't bring up that I was talking about with, I guess this would be the benefits and how I'm addicted to her succeeding. When we moved to England, it was her that made us travel. She was always trying to find, even if it was just driving to the beach in England when it's freezing cold, just so the kids could see sand and smell the ocean, we did it. And so what England did for us is it gave us an excuse or a reason to go travel. And it actually took us from where we were in Virginia Beach, where we were not really seeing each other, and it made our marriage, difficult, to now we got to know each other again. We fell in love with each other all over again. And that's so cool. Her taking me to Jamaica for that first cruise, I was blown away. And what I was telling you earlier, like I met these women on the back of that boat. That was the pinnacle moment when we started talking about mindset and business. That like one girl, said she made $35,000  1 month, and I was just like, in a month, like that's my take home pay for my W-2 for the military. Like,
yeah,
and it completely changed my mind. But then moving forward, I've gone on 3 of those trips now. I've gone out to California twice for the Black Status Retreat. And it's actually showed me the value of that that one, I don't say intimate, but that one-on-one time, like, just being with each other, and even tagging along on the Black Status Retreat. We still got our time. I mean, we get to get dressed up, go to the dinners, and put ourselves in situations that we might not have always been able to be in.
Right.
And so, and that for me is huge. And I want, that's why I get so excited about this, because I want all my friends to experience it. So it's like, what does your wife do? Hey, that's cool. Have her keep doing it. Have her sell makeup so that she can take you on trips. Because I know
you guys can come on the trip. Yeah, you guys can come with us. Yeah,
we can take at a swim up bar.
Right. That's awesome. Cool. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. We've gone a little bit over, but I appreciate, Tim, you spending the time, and thanks for everybody who's been watching. For those that watch later, appreciate those too. And I have not become an expert at this whole live thing yet, so I apologize if people were asking questions during this thing. I do see that we had like 35 comments, which is awesome. But I don't have the skills. I can't even sit and read a book while the TV's on. So let alone try to look at this camera and talk to you and read comments and all that fun stuff. So those who commented, I appreciate it. I will jump back, and Tim will be able to respond if there's any questions that pointed to him as well. But thanks for coming. Thanks for shooting out, Tim, and helping me out tonight. And until Carly, we said hello, and have an awesome evening. And everybody else, have a great Sunday and a great week.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I'm going to turn this off, and this is where it's fun too, because I never know exactly when it ends, but sometime soon we will go off the air.